everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with Tformers.com, your #1 news source for everything Transformers. And for today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new released Transformers masterpiece MP-11NR Ramjet from Takara Tomy. Now this figure comes packaged in the same style of packaging we see with all the masterpieces. You've got the black box, you've got the masterpiece logo up in the corner, you've got images of the figure in both robot and vehicle mode, and then down below we have the MP-11NR. This is a retooled version of the MP-11 Starscream, and I think the NR stands for new release, and then he's listed as the Destron New Jetron Warrior. That's a mouthful. On the side, we just have the metal embossed Transformers Masterpiece logo, and then on the back, we have images of the figure in various poses, showing off the various accessories, and some writing that I really can't read. Okay, so let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at Ramjet outside the packaging. Now, before we get into the review, I just want to let you guys know that starting this weekend, in fact, as I'm filming this on Thursday, it's actually starting this evening, we're going to be bringing you complete coverage of the Transformers 2016 BotCon convention, which takes place in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm personally not going to be there, but coverage will be coming again starting this evening and then throughout the weekend on Tformers.com. So if you want to get the latest lowdown on all the Transformer happenings from the convention, be sure to head over there and check that out. Okay, so getting back to the review itself. So as I mentioned before, Ramjet here is a reuse or a retooled version of the MP-11 Starscream. Now, I don't actually have that version of Starscream. I have the first Hasbro Starscream figure that was released. The body is basically a retooled version of that Starscream figure previously released by Takara, the second version of Starscream. Now, this also is listed as some kind of limited release. I don't totally get that. I think for most of us who buy this as an imported figure online, it really doesn't have a big drastic change. I got mine from Big Bad Toy Store. Like overseas, I think you can only get it at a certain store or something, a Takara store. So it is supposedly more limited in its release than a regular masterpiece. Okay, so as far as accessories go, the figure does come with that traditional file card like we always see with the masterpieces, and this one just has artwork of him in his robot mode on the front and then has the name, and then on the back it has some writing that I can't read. It's probably statistics or a bio or something, and then some statistical numbers down below. Also, it gives us a look at the toy in both robot and vehicle modes. So get an instruction sheet. Now this is a little bit different than what we generally see. This is an actual booklet as opposed to a sheet. So we've got some artwork on the front, and then as I said, it's a booklet and has larger images than we generally get. So it's a little clearer on how to transform him and everything. Again, a bunch of writing that I can't really read, and it doesn't really go into doesn't seem to really go into the features or the accessories or anything. You know, usually it kind of shows you where they pull the stuff from, like the cartoon and stuff. So there's nothing really like that in this. With this figure, we also get a little miniature figure that will fit inside the cockpit. And this is done with translucent plastic, I think to mimic a holographic form. So this is from the episode, I think, that takes place right after Transformers the movie, and where Ramjet and I believe it's Dirge are hiding out in an airport. The Decepticons are lying low after the events of Transformers the movie, and we see Ramjet hiding out in this airport, and he's got this holographic pilot in the cockpit, and I think that's what this is supposed to mimic. So it's done in a translucent plastic. There's no articulation. It's in a seated position and not a lot of detail. It looks like you can kind of make out an oxygen mask for a pilot uniform, but that's about it. And then finally, we get a pair of big missiles. Now, as I'm sure most of you are aware, the original Ramjet, as well as Dirge and Thrust, were all just basically taking that original Seeker mold that was used with Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp, and they just basically gave them different wings. And with Ramjet, we actually got, instead of the traditional null ray, we got got these more round missile looking things. And so that's what these are supposed to mimic, is the missile things. Now in the cartoon, which this toy seems to be based on primarily more so than the original toy, we do get the null rays, which in the cartoon, in robot mode, he did use the null rays just like the other seeker jets. But so these missiles are more for his robot or his jet mode, for using his jet mode. But they do give you a place if you want to store it on the figure in his robot mode. I've given you, there's these holes on the side here, and so you can just plug them in. And really this is basically made for storage, and not, I don't think really cartoon accurate or anything, but just giving you a place to store those when he's in his robot mode. And the missiles are just made with a black plastic, very similar to the G1 version. You do have some silver here on the back thruster of the missile, and you can actually pull these apart. This is so you can slide it over the null ray when you're transforming him into his jet mode, and I'll show you that more when we go through his transformation. So for Ramjet himself, as you likely know, the second generation of Seekers were known as the cone heads, and that's because with the original toy, to kind of differentiate it from Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp, they made it so you just didn't push this cone down. Now with this, it's actually part of the cone is part of the head, so you can't actually push it back. But on the original toy, it was basically you just didn't do one extra step of the transformation, and they called that the cone heads. Now I do like the face sculpt on this. He's got metallic silver and he's got the red eye, so I think that looks good. The figure, as I mentioned, seems to be more based on the cartoon than the original toy, mainly because the toy seemed to have more decals. So for instance, on the wings, on the original toy, there were some decals with some striping here on the edges of the wings, which we didn't, I don't think, see in the cartoon. It does have the Decepticon symbol, which is smaller than on the original toy. It doesn't really bother me. Has that on both sides, has the Decepticon symbol on both sides. He's got white feet. Again, this was something more true to the cartoon. The toy, I believe, had the black feet like the other Seeker jets did. And the wings, I think, on this are a little more red as opposed to a darker maroon, as I recall being on the original toy. Also, I think there were some more decals just like on the midsection of the toy as well. Again, I'm kind of going off memory since I don't have my old Ramjet. We do have the red striping and some gold painted on his knee, which looks pretty good. You've got that kind of shaded grayish color for the canopy. The canopy does open, and you've got a yellow seat, and then you've got some metallic silver on the inside. There's not a whole lot of sculpting detail on the inside there. You've got, just like with the other Seeker jets, you can pull up this chest piece, and it has like little missiles inside that are made to look like, can fire out. So that's pretty cool. And you've got the little jet turbines, and then you've got some detailing with the gold, metallic gold, and the red arrows pointing down up here near the head. And here's a look at him from the back, and you again have another Decepticon symbol up here. This is more for his jet mode, and you've got the black smaller wings with the white striping. And finally, as I mentioned before, he has the null rays for his robot mode, which is again in keeping more with the cartoon. And with this updated Seeker mold that they're using, the null rays attached with you've got this extra piece of plastic, so it's ball joints on each end, and one end connects on the arm and the other connects into the null ray. I don't really like that. I prefer it better when you just could plug it straight into the arm, but again, this is something that we started seeing with the updated Seeker mold. Now this figure stands, if you count to the tip of his cone, about 9.5 inches, maybe just a little bit under 9.5 inches tall. For a comparison, here's the my MP Starscream. Now this is using the older Seeker mold, and then Acid Storm, and this one is using that newer Seeker mold. And you can see they're all roughly about the same height. Give you an Autobot comparison. Here he is next to Smokescreen. Now, one thing notably missing from this Seeker Jet masterpiece is the stand that we generally see. So you can see here I'm using the Acid Storm one. He does have the little peg on the back so you can plug in. If you have an extra one of these stands, you can plug it in. But again, he does not actually come with a figure stand. Articulation on this one is pretty much similar to the other Seekers. You can turn the head left and right. You can look down if you pull the whole head up with the neck and everything, but that's really more part of the transformation, and he can look up a little bit as well. Arms you can get out pretty good, and it's got good rotation. He has see, he's got a bicep swivel. He's got a single hinged, actually I would call this more of a double hinge type elbow. So he's got good bending at the elbow. He's got swivels at the wrist, and you can kind of do the wrists back and forth a little bit. He's got articulated fingers, so he does have basically these three fingers are articulated, and you've got the articulation there where the fingers meet the hand, and you also have some articulation on the upper finger, and then he's got this separate finger that's also articulated and has the knuckle articulation as well, and then the thumbs are articulated. He doesn't really have any kind of midsection joint, so no kind of waist swivel or anything. You can get the legs forward about that much, and you can't really do the legs back on this one. And then as far as the splits go, that's about as much as he can do the splits. He does have a thigh swivel, and then he has pretty good bending at the knee, essentially a single hinge knee, and then really no ankle articulation. You can kind of move the feet pieces a bit. And with the feet, you can also move this front foot piece around. You can rotate it to the sides a bit to give it some more stability when you're posing it. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you through the transformation. Now, if I forgot to mention this at the beginning, when you first take him out of the box, he is in his robot mode. Now, the first thing you'll want to do is if you have those missile pieces attached to the back, you want to go on and just remove them. It's easier to get them out of the way. Okay, so the first step is you can pull the canopy open a little bit and then take the head, and what you want to do is kind of pull it down a little bit and then turn it so that the canopy and the Decepticon symbol are facing this way. And then you can basically push it down and close the canopy so it kind of forms a full canopy of the jet. Okay, so now what you want to do is you can kind of pull this back part out a little bit. And what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to pull this this back cone piece, and you're going to want to pull it through. So you can kind of pull up on the body a little bit. It'll raise up a little bit, and you just kind of have to finagle it through. It's kind of a tight fit, but you can get it through. And so that's going to form the front of the jet cone. And you see it'll basically click into place. Now the other thing you have to do is you have to turn this canopy around so that it's now facing forward, and then when you bring the cone up, it should click all into place, forming basically the front of the jet. And then you can go on and pull the whole cone up, and so it's facing straight up. Now at this stage, what you can do is grab this black piece here and just kind of pull up on it, and it'll rise up, and then just turn the arms, and the turbine, the chest turbines should kind of go all the way up so they're facing upward. And then you can just turn the arms to the side. But basically you want these turbines facing upwards now. So now what you're going to want to do is take these black pieces here in the midsection, and you're just going to want to kind of take them up and move them towards the middle, and you kind of just rotate them up and again towards the middle, and then they should click into place like this. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to twist the bicep of the arm so that the cannons are facing back, but you want the fist to be facing forward still. So turn the bicep, turn it at the arm at the bicep, and then also you're going to want to make sure that the thumb is tucked inside the hand and the fingers are closed up as much as possible. Then what you want to do is just lift the fists so that they're facing forward. They just kind of lift up like that. And then you're going to turn the arms at the shoulders so that they're facing inward. The hands are pointing inside. And it takes a little finagling, but you can do it. Like I said, it takes a little bit of finagling here, but what you're going to want to end up with is the cannons facing outward and the fists facing inside, kind of tucked into this midsection here. Now flip it around, and if this piece here, if this flat piece here hasn't already been pushed in, you want to make sure it's pushed in all the way in, so that basically you're forming the top of the jet here. And then take these side red pieces and just flip them down. And make sure they kind of click into place. Now what you want to do is go to the feet and take the front part of the feet and turn them around. And then you're just going to flip them up. And then the knee pieces should pop out a little bit. And then what you can do is turn it around, and you're going to want to straighten the wings out a bit, and then basically pop this white piece up, and then you can put the back part of the foot, push it back all the way back so it goes inside, and then pop these down. Do it on the other foot. And actually, real quick, going back, before you straighten the wing out, flip it back around, and what you want to do is you want to lift this piece out on the wing, and it's easier when you have the wing still kind of tilted back. And so lift that out and turn it, and then put it down so that the black side is now facing out. And again, you want to do that on both sides. And it can still be a little tricky to get that piece to pop up, but again, it's better when you have the wings kind of tilted back to do that. And then once you do that, then you can kind of straighten the wings out. Now at this point, you just want to flip it around and then just push the legs up into the rest of the body. Make sure you have the wings kind of lined up correctly, and it should just kind of snap into place. And there's a little peg between the two legs so that you can squeeze it so that it secures them nice and tight. And that basically gives you the jet mode. You want to take those knoll rays and you just want to kind of lift them out and flip it around at the ball joint that's attached to the body of the figure, and just kind of line it up. You've got the little peg here, and you've got the holes in the wings. If you've got the MP-11 Starscream, you know, you're familiar with how this works. So again, just kind of pull it out and turn it, and then you're going to want to, again, just kind of line it up so that the peg on the knoll ray matches up the hole with the hole on the wing. Now, if you just like the knoll ray for your jet mode, you can do it, you can display it like that, but it's really made so that you take these missile pieces, as I showed you in the beginning, and you slide them over this. So if you want to do that, go on and unplug it from the wing. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to slide it over. Now you want to make sure that there's these little slits on the front part of the missile, and you want to make sure that it's basically turned so that the slit is going to come down over the arm that connects the knoll ray to the actual robot. And it does matter. There is basically a left side and a right side cannon, and so what you want to do is you want to make sure that when the slit is positioned so it's going to come over this arm, that this peg is facing upward towards the wing. If it's facing this way, you've got the wrong one on the wrong side, and it won't fit correctly. So basically what you do is you just slide it, and it slides over, and then you just take this back piece and you plug it in, and then basically it now has a peg, and then you position it so it plugs into the back hole on the wing. You'll notice that there's two different holes on the wing, so you're going to plug it into this back hole. Okay, and so here's a look at Ramjet fully transformed into his jet mode, and like with the other Seeker jets, he does have working landing gear. So if you want to put down his landing gear for the front, you just pull open this little door. Now if you got fat fingers like mine, it's kind of a pain to do, but basically you want to just pull out the front landing gear, and then you can close the little door if you want to. And then for the back, you just kind of push down, and it can be a little tricky, but basically just kind of push down towards the back, and it should lift out, and you can pull out those back landing gear. Now he also, this was more of a feature for the other Seekers, but just like with them, you can I think it's supposed to be like a radar or something, so you can open the cone, pull out the cone and open it, and it's got this little metal plate. And if I remember correctly, this was a radar or something, I don't know, that one of the other Seekers used. Now, it would have been cool if they had given you Ramjet. I mean, basically, he's called Ramjet because he likes to ram things. And so periodically, he would get his cone smashed in after ramming something. So it would have been cool if they had given him like an alternate smashed in kind of ram cone here to replace this with. That would have been kind of cool. But canopy does open, as I mentioned before, and you can put that little hologram figure inside, and he just sits right there in the seat, and the canopy closes nice and tight. And real quick, just a couple other things that the directions list as features, which I don't really think adds a whole lot to the toy, but these front pieces you can kind of tilt down. I don't know why you would do that, but it is listed in the directions as something you can do. Also, he's got this, the jet engines on the back have some movement. You can kind of do them up and down so they have a little bit of articulation. And you can lift this back panel up. It's actually 2 panels, but you can lift it up as kind of one, and it reveals like the inner workings of the engine. And then finally, you've got this panel here in the midsection. I think this is supposed to be like an air brake or something, and it lifts up like that. And he rolls pretty good with the landing gear down. And you do have the feet kind of stick down on this mold, but it again doesn't really limit how much it rolls. Now this front landing gear does have a tendency to kind of fold in sometimes, but again it still rolls pretty well. And he's pretty plain looking in his jet mode. He's got the small Decepticon symbol up here on the front and then the 2 on the back of the wing, but otherwise he really doesn't have any differential markings on him. He does have the white striping on the back, black wings. So in his jet mode, Ramjet is about a little bit over 12 inches in length, about 12.5 inches. And then height wise, if you have the landing gear down, if you go to his highest point in the back, then he is about 4.5 inches in height. Okay, so that's my view. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this one. I'm definitely glad we're starting to see the Conehead Seekers. Now, out of the 3, Thrust was always my favorite. I always liked the little fans in his wings, and I definitely hope that we see that one down the road, but I am glad we're getting Ramjet. My only real complaint with this one is I do think he's a little bit on the plain side, and it doesn't bother me too much because I realize that's more in keeping with how he looked in the cartoon. But otherwise, I think this is a very cool toy and one that you're definitely going to want to add to your collection. So this is out now and available at places like Big Bad Toy Store. We'll have a full gallery of images up at toynewseye.com. There'll be a link in the description below. Also, if you're into BotCon coverage and seeing all the latest Transformer reveals, be sure to head over to tformers.com this weekend. Coverage should begin this evening. And as always, leave a comment, let us know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video. Also, if you haven't already, please follow me on my Facebook and or Twitter pages. I'll have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, I'll catch you later.